Hello. Sorry about last time. I don't know what got into Grimley. I'm so glad to see you all right and in one piece. What? That never rings. Hello? Scotland Yard? Apparently there's a killer on the loose. Yes. Of course, I'll be on the lookout. Thank you. Well, first time for everything, I suppose. Well, don't let me keep you. Head on in. Enjoy.
Hello.
Hello there. How are we all doing this evening? Me, I was just having a cup of tea by the fireplace, marveling at my brilliance. Mm. 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 Mm.
I actually was having a cup of tea. I just finished it.
That's good, old boy. That's
Aw.
good. That's especially good. Yes. Ah. Well, shall we get started tonight?
I
Just
guess.
jump right in.
Right
Might as
in.
well.
I mean, that's kind of what we've been doing lately.
I mean, we're all here.
We're all here. So,
So,
Who has a story?
it's me.
It'd just be funny if we got on here and nobody had a story. We're just like,
I don't know. Although you had the start now.
welcome.
Well, son of a bitch. Although kudos to Christina because she's the reason I have the story. Unbeknownst to her, she just dropped a fun little tidbit my way, like, "Hey, did you guys hear such and such and such?" And I'm all like, fell down a rabbit hole, and I've been falling.
So all credit goes to me. If it's
All
good, if
credit-
it's bad, then all credit goes to Chris.
all credit goes to Christina and her super high-pitched voice.
Well, kids, this all started, of all days, the story that is, or rather why I took the story, not the story itself, was a few weeks back, Christina texted us, me and James, saying,
Hey, did you hear that they think they might have figured out who Jack the Ripper was?
and I knew I had heard about this because it's actually not a recent story, though it's now surging for reasons I haven't fully uncovered because I've been too busy uncovering something else. Yeah. So apparently
They're
there's
too
this
busy
big...
uncovering your mom.
Oh.
Goodness gracious, James. No. So I've been too busy uncovering where all these people, we'll get to that. So as many people may be aware, they're saying that after 137 years, Jack the Ripper's identity has been revealed.
thought
A
it was
British,
Jack.
you'd think that, right? No, it actually isn't Jack at all. British historian and self-proclaimed Ripperologist. I never
A
knew there was
ripperologist.
Ripperologist. Like, do you just drop that at parties? You just be like, "Hey there, I'm a Ripperologist." That's not gonna pick up the ladies. They're gonna be like,
Yeah,
Not with that attitude, it's not.
I'm not giving out that number for that.
"No, you guys want to see my Jack the Ripper collection? Not really. No, bye." Ripperologist Russell Edwards. I don't know if you probably can hear my children in the background, arguing over something. Russell Edwards has claimed to have oh my God.
Please keep that in. The tongue fart noise.
I should. Russell Edwards has claimed to have definitively identified the famous serial killer. And who do you think it would be? Do you think it would be Prince Albert or some other prominent person? No, he is claiming that it is just this little old barber named Aaron Kosminski. And he claims that he has uncovered this through DNA testing of a silk shawl that belonged to the fourth victim, Catherine Eddowes, which he bought in 2007. Apparently the shawl had both blood and semen stains on it. And
Ew.
yeah. and using DNA provided by Kaminsky's eldest brother's great-great-granddaughter. Bless me.
We should
Because
do one takes. Just never edit.
Just never edit it. Because Aaron didn't have any children. Shocker. And they used mitochondrial DNA. That's the portion of the DNA that is inherited only from one's mother. And using this, they state that they made a 100% match to Aaron, thus proving without a doubt that he must be Jack the Ripper. Case closed, right?
Well, that's the episode.
That's it. Thanks for joining us. No.
Oh.
Now, if you can make a connection and it ties to the Count of Saint Germain, this will be a really special episode.
It was Ashtar. We'll give you a hint. We are going to cross into an area that has fascinated James.
Uh-oh.
Not so much on the
this?
show, but just in general. But we'll get there.
Oh, okay.
So, is the case closed? No. No, not at all.
I think not.
I think not. Thank you there.
Sorry.
Now, we could discuss with what many experts in the field have stated are the problem with this conclusion. The Shaw itself was not preserved as it should have been. It changed hands with who knows how many people. Also, apparently using mitochondrial DNA, one can only exclude a suspect.
Oh.
But for now, but we're going to go on the idea, or we're going to go on the belief that the semen stains on the scarf do in fact contain the DNA of the Kaminsky family bloodline.
Okay.
So, right. But first,
A word from our sponsors,
a word from our sponsors.
which we don't have, so we're just trucking right along.
Are you having a hard time with keeping your knives in shape when you're walking down the dark London alleyways searching for prey? Well, now there's an answer. No. So
That's
first,
me. I'm a ripperologist.
I'm a ripperologist. Mom said I could be anything, so I became a disappointment.
Oh.
So first, kids, we're going to go back in time to London, 1888. So let's hop in the LPH time machine.
Booda booda.
Machine noises go.
Yeah, woo, 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 woo. The first date, we're going to set it for August 30th, 1888, Whitechapel. The body of Marianne Nichols is found with her throat cut and stab wounds to the abdomen and vaginal area. Forgot to say, kids, we're going to be talking about Jack the Ripper. And at this point, if you don't know who Jack the Ripper was or how horrific his crimes were, I don't know what to do for you. Viewer discretion or listener discretion is strongly advised, because we're going to be talking about violence against women in this, because it's Jack the Ripper. He didn't hug them to death.
I do love it when a trigger warning comes after the first upset.
I know, right? They're all like, oh my God. Oh, well, that makes sense. Okay. Thanks, Chris. Look, it's a severed head. By the way, look out. There might be body parts laying around. Look, I'm the world's greatest detective. I didn't say that I was the world's greatest forewarning person, if there is a word for that. I don't know. Now, it's important to note that Marianne Nichols, she is considered canonically the first victim of Jack the Ripper. We say canonically because canonically,
Like as opposed to the Jack the Ripper fan fiction?
yeah, basically, because there's it's Whitechapel and it's the 1880s. People are getting murdered and stabbed all over the place. But
Damn, dude. I'm sorry.
I mean, it's true. Nobody moves to Whitechapel thinking this might be a nice place to raise the children. No, it's a bad place. But she's considered the first victim of Jack the Ripper. Okay, now let's jump back into the time machine and set the date for the next murder. Dude,
Just
we're gonna
jerking
come,
us all around.
buddy, guys. We're gonna be jumping all around time. This isn't even.
I didn't even have a bathroom break.
There's a bathroom in the time machine. It's down the corridor, second door on the left. Go down the stairs, go around the corner, and it's right there. It's a blue door. Anyway, now we're gonna set the date for September the 8th, 1888. Yes,
Your birthday!
that is my birthday. I am negative 91. Happy fucked up murder birthday to me.
That's gonna be hard to sing.
Good.
That's
Exactly the way I want it. Good. It doesn't need to, because it's fucked up is what it is.
We have to sing that at his birthday next time.
God
Noted.
damn it. The body of Annie Chapman is discovered with her throat cut just like the previous victim. However, her abdomen has been entirely laid open with the intestines lifted out of the body.
Ugh.
What's more, Chapman's killer had, and forgive me, removed her uterus, the upper portion of the vagina, and the posterior 2/3 of the bladder.
God damn, dude.
I know. So Jack here is really upped his gruesomeness.
Wait, how do they know that they're the same killer?
So, good question. Because of the nature of the fact that she died by her throat being cut, the fact that that a lot of the area was targeted towards her abdomen, but that's it. That's
Okay.
it. You know, like, you could easily excuse the first murder, as you could say, because her throat was slit and she was stabbed to the abdomen. But, yeah. And the fact that it was so close together and it was in the same area. But other than that, I'm not sure. And it's not important. Anyway, the next date.
It was to me.
I know, I'm teasing you.
This critical detail is not at all important. Just forget about it.
Time traveling and seeing gruesome murders just makes me hungry. All right, get back in the time machine.
Take us somewhere
Okay.
better this time, please.
Yeah.
I'm not. I never dreamed of time traveling just to see different eras of human barbecue.
Oh yeah, no.
Oh.
We're not even going to different eras. It's the same fucking era. And we're just going down the street. We're staying in the same place even. You know. And we're only going now to September 30th. So we're getting away from my nightmarish unbirthday. And we're heading to September 30th, 1888. Hey, look! There's a body! The body of Elizabeth Stride is found. Stride's body was found at 1 a.m. by Louis Diemschutz, the steward of the International Working Men's Educational Club. That's a fancy way of just saying a stripper joint or something. I don't know.
I was wondering, it's like 1 a.m. Like, what's he up? What is he doing?
I know. The
As being
steward
an
of
international gentleman.
I know. Not a gentleman. International Working Man's Educational Club. Like, what are you doing at a place like that?
I
at
bet he
1 in
was
the
getting
morning?
educated all right.
I know, right? You going in there like, oh, this is gonna be awesome. This is gonna be amazing. Then you walk inside and they're like, so anyway, pi is 3.14 divided
That is
by
about their numbers.
educational club because we believe in math because we're British and we believe in being educated. I don't want to be a stonemason my whole life. Dean Schutz had driven into the poorly illuminated yard with his horse and two-wheeled cart when his horse abruptly shielded to the left to avoid what appeared to be a bundle lying upon the ground. That horse is like, Jesus Christ, that's a dead person. And of course, Diemschutz unsuccessfully attempted to lift the object with his whip handle before leaving his cart. I'm just seeing a guy like whipping a dead body already. Like what is that? Like, whip it. Like what?
Trying to like move it Indiana Jones style.
I guess, right? I don't know.
Maybe you want to make sure it wasn't alive.
Yes. It sure was. It sure wasn't.
You don't want to pick up a bag and then it starts squirming on you.
I mean, true. Upon lighting a match, Dean Schutz saw a prone body. He immediately ran inside the club to check his wife was safe. That's a weird thing, like, Jesus Christ, there's a dead body! Bonnie! Bonnie, are you all right? Oh, Jesus Christ, I'm glad you're all right there. I was really worried that somehow it might be you. I don't know why, but, after that life insurance policy, you're feeling all right, aren't you? Damn it! He's probably in there like, damn it, it's her, she's fine. He's probably all excited, like, this is my chance!
Have
After
they
finding
life insurance yet?
I don't know.
I bet
After
Probably.
Probably. After finding her safe and sound, he reported his discovery before the group promptly dispersed to seek help. Oh, she's dead! We gotta find help! Somebody help this dead person, bring her back to life! Blood was still flowing from a single knife wound inflicted to Stride's neck. And
Oh my
although her
gosh.
hands were cold to the touch, other sections of her body were either slightly or quite warm. So,
Jeez.
this suggests that Stride was killed shortly before his arrival in the yard. Basically, he interrupted the killing. So, several patrons who actually left the Working Men's Educational Club around that time, left the premises, I think, between 12:30 and 12:50, actually later informed police they hadn't seen anything strange. They didn't notice anything. So, yeah, he probably walked in just right. He interrupted the killer is what he did.
Yeah.
Like before, her throat had been cut so deeply that she was almost decapitated.
Oh, what kind of knife is that?
I know. What kind of brute strength is that? Her throat had been cut so deeply that she was almost decapitated, but she did not seem to be mutilated like Jack the Ripper's the other victims.
Because he was
It's a-
interrupted.
Exactly. It's important to note that there was a possible witness named Israel Schwartz who saw
I
a
love
man
that
grab.
name.
I know. Who saw a man grab Stride and throw her to the ground. Scared for his own life, Schwartz fled. According to him, this happened around 12:45 a.m. So, indications seem to suggest that the killer is someone who is very strong. Because remember, he freaking almost decapitated her. And before that, I mean, he literally threw her to the ground. Because, I mean, throwing an adult woman to the ground, and almost cutting her head off, that's not an easy thing to do. So, remember that. Remember that. All right.
It's John Cena.
It's John Cena! No, John Cena would never do that. All right, kids. It's time to continue this time travel adventure from hell. Get back into the machine.
I don't
Oh.
wanna.
Oh, wait. Oh, you don't have to. You don't have to.
Oh.
You know
Oh,
why?
is it later?
We don't have to travel in time at this moment at all. You know why? Because the next murder is also happening right now on the
He
He
stage.
was like, I have to fulfill this sacrifice to my demon lords tonight on the full moon.
What she said.
Historically accurate.
So it's happening right now, but we're just standing around talking about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're
James.
sucky time travelers.
No, we're responsible time travelers.
Exactly. We can't change things.
No, it's a fixed point in time and space. I'm sorry, but 2 victims on the same night. That's peculiar, and not just any 2. The second victim is the whole reason we're here, having this fucked up adventure. Catherine Eddowes. You know, the victim whose silk shawl will lead to this supposedly big revelation over a century later. She's just been murdered on this evening, and her body will be found 45 minutes after Strides. It's important to note that according to Google Maps, the 2 locations are about a mile apart, and walking
Quick,
it.
get the mitochondria.
What?
Quick, get the Dang it. Quick, get the mitochondria.
Get the mitochondria. Are you having a stroke?
You were just saying in the beginning that they thought the whole key to this was the
The mitochondrial DNA?
that.
That's not how science works. You're not touching any more of the buttons in the time machine, James.
Aww.
I can't even see his face, but I feel. Oh, there it is. All right. And actually, I looked it up. Even walking this distance, it would take about 17 minutes to get from one location to the other. So you have Elizabeth Stride being murdered around 12:45, 12:50. If Schwartz really did witness the killing, then the killer a mile away unseen, as I found no one who witnessed a man covered in blood strolling or running, going to kill Edos at around 1:30. But it's doable.
Yeah.
You know,
He's a very athletic serial killer.
I know, right? Just be like, it's a nice night out here. Look at that chap. He's just running. He's running. He's running so high he's covered in blood. Is that his blood? It probably is. Don't ask questions, Susie. Let's head to the pub.
Well, did the guy know what he was wearing? Was it like all black? Because you might not be able to see all the blood in the dark if he's wearing like all black or something.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. Oh, dear God, we'll get to that.
He's always teasing me. Come on now.
Anyway,
I'm
we gotta.
impatient.
I know. We gotta get to this last part. So, it would also account to why Edos was the most mutilated up to this point. Same as before, the throat cut, disemboweled, but this time, her face had also been horribly butchered. And I saw the autopsy photos.
Oh.
Horribly. Oh, yeah.
Take it one
Just-
for the team there.
Yeah. This suggests to some that the killer was enraged.
Mm-hmm.
Police also found some clues nearby, including a scrap of apron and graffiti that read, "The Jews," spelled Juwes, "are the men that will not be blamed for nothing." However, they were unsure if this had anything to do with the case and washed it away in case it caused anti-Semitic riots.
Leave it to like the racist to always be idiots, misspell Jews and use a double negative.
Yeah, I'm not sure what this is supposed to mean.
And the graffiti was in crayon.
Surely it's in blood, right? Is that what you said? That it was written in blood?
No.
Or did,
It was just
did I make that up?
You made that up.
Sometimes I do that.
It's okay. Let me look at my note here. That's not technically a misspelling. I'm trying to remember what I saw there because I actually brazed over that, but it doesn't matter. We'll get, okay. Now, before we talk about all the differences with this victim, let's give the final lady our attention as well. So, one more time, jump back in the time machine. James, don't touch shit. 'Cause you don't understand science. We're going to jump ahead slightly more than we have. The date is November 9th. 1888. So Jack the Ripper has supposedly gone on this killing spree beginning at the end of August and then killed all the other ladies throughout September, then just, took a break all through October and then decided, hey, you know what? Let's just do this one more time. Because why not? Mary Jane Kelly's body was discovered the morning of November the 9th by her landlord, who had come to collect the rent that was 6 weeks overdue. She had been mutilated in a way that is honestly indescribable, so I'm not going to try.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What?
No, I just said, oh, thank you. Because I was half
Yeah.
expecting, which is indescribable. So I'm going to describe it.
Yeah, I mean, suffice to say, it was horrific and the worst of all the 5 murders. And you can, if you're curious, listeners, you can go look up the photos.
I'm not curious.
Nope, I wasn't, but I looked anyway to do the research, and I wish I hadn't. But Jesus, tap dancing Christ.
So her body was found in November.
November the 9th.
Her rent was 6 weeks late. Had people seen her in between that 6 weeks, or okay? He's nodding yes, folks.
Yes. She didn't lay there dead for 6 weeks.
Okay, yeah.
No, in fact, she had been seen the night before. She'd been
Okay.
seen November 8th. So, yeah. After this, the killings abruptly stopped, or at least no other murders were contributed to Jack, as any other murders didn't come close to this level of monstrosity. So, Now, let's go back to Edos. First, it's considered by most, going by testimony from those who knew her, that she was not a sex worker like the others. That's always been kind of a common thing. Like, he was killing a bunch of hookers, prostitutes, but by all intents and purposes, Catherine Edos was not a prostitute. So right there, she stands out from the other victims. Secondly, she allegedly had an exchange with a superintendent of the casual ward where the poor, and this is basically where the poor could go when they were ill or just a place to stay because she was very poor at this point. And she claimed that she planned to earn the reward offered for the apprehension of the Whitechapel murderer, adding, "I think I know him."
Oh.
What?
Pretty big claim.
Yeah.
but
And a
how would
claim
she
to
know?
get you killed brutally.
I know. Yeah. But how would she know him? How would she know him? That brings me back to the silk shawl. It's easy to kind of glaze over. It's like, oh, a silk shawl, a silk shawl. It wasn't just a silk shawl. It was an ornate silk shawl.
Oh, it was fancy.
It was fancy. Do you know how much a shawl like that would cost? Just off the top of your head?
$2.
Yeah. A
Adjusting
more
for-
ornate,
not adjusting for inflation.
Yeah. A more ornate, high-quality silk scarf of this magnitude might cost somewhere between the range of 15 shillings to £1. To you and I, that you might be like, okay. But in 1880, when you're literally living at the poorhouse and you're supposedly have the silk scarf, the silk shawl, that could probably get you several nights in some place other than the poorhouse. I don't know. It's kind of interesting about that. But still, the other thing that's kind of interesting about this silk shawl, so interesting to note about this type of silk shawl, it was commonly found in the home of higher-end Jewish homes, this type of silk ornate shawl. And interestingly enough, Catherine Eddowes had been cleaning some homes, some Jewish homes predominantly, in the area just shortly before she was murdered.
Not to be confused with Jowish.
Jewish. I don't know.
No, just the way he misspelled it earlier. Maybe
I know.
He just had a. Maybe he just had a speech impediment. It was the Jowish.
I mean, maybe. But I started thinking, and I decided to go back and re-examine the other crime scenes. You know what's interesting is that the first victim, Annie Chapman, she seemed to have a very expensive-looking bonnet, I guess you could say. Mary Nichols was what was known at the time as an unfortunate woman. That night that she died, Mary was wearing a bonnet that none of her other residents of the lodging house had ever seen her with before. It's interesting.
Whoa.
She's wearing a really nice, fancy bonnet. Okay, sure. Let's see here. The next victim.
You have me on the edge of my seat.
I know. Annie Chapman. When Annie Chapman was discovered, in her hand was what was described as muslin. I was like, what's muslin? I've never heard of that before. It's cotton fabric. It's of plain weave, but it's used in dresses. Do you see a commonality right now with some of these things that are what is something that all these things have in common?
Fabric.
Not just fabric. Yes, they're that's a good boy.
Pricey?
They're pricey.
Pricey for the station of the women that are in possession of them?
That's right. That's right. But more importantly, they're all articles of women's clothing. High-end women's clothing that they should not have owned, like you just said. Interesting. So I decided, let's go look at Aaron Kamiński. What do we know about Aaron Kamiński? Aaron Kamiński, he was a Polish immigrant. Oh, and it's important to note, despite extensive police investigation, I forgot to mention this, the Ripper was never identified and the crimes remained unsolved. Years after the end of the murders, though, documents were discovered that revealed the suspicions of police officials against a man they only referred to as Kamiński.
Okay.
Not Aaron Kamiński, just Kamiński. All through these documents, they just zeroed in on the last name Kamiński. Never naming, his first name, just Kamiński, all throughout there. In 1894, memorandum written by Sir Melville Macnaghten, the Assistant Chief Constable of the London Metropolitan Police, he named one of the suspects as a Polish Jew called Kamiński, without a forename. In his memo, his memo was actually discovered in the private papers of his daughter, Lady Aberconway, by television journalist Dan Farson in 1959, and an abridged version from the archives of the Metropolitan Police was released to the public in the 1970s. Macnaghten stated that there were strong reasons for suspecting Kamiński because he had a great hatred of women with strong homicidal tendencies. In 1910, Assistant Commissioner Sir Robert Anderson claimed in his memoirs, The Lighter Side of My Official Life, that the Ripper was a low-class Polish Jew. That's not the lighter side of life. I don't think this guy understood what that's supposed to mean. Chief Inspector Donald Swanson, who led the Ripper investigation, named the man as Kaminsky in notes handwritten in the margin of his presentation copy of Anderson's memoirs. He added that Kaminsky had been watched at his brother's home in Whitechapel by the police, and he was taken with his hands tied behind his back to the workhouse and then to Colony Hatch Asylum, and that he died shortly after. The copy of Anderson's memoirs containing the handwritten notes by Swanson was donated by his descendants to New Scotland Yard's Crime Museum in 2006. In 1987, Ripper author Martin Fido searched asylum records for any inmate called Kaminsky and found only one, Aaron Kaminsky. So this is why they've zeroed in on Kaminsky must be Aaron Kaminsky. At the time of the murders, Aaron apparently lived either on Providence Street or Greenfield Street, both of which are close to the sites of the murders. The addresses given in the asylum records are in Mile End Old Town, just on the edge of Whitechapel. But it wasn't his house. See, remember they stated at the home of his brother. He actually lived with his brother and his brother's wife and family. Now, the description of Aaron Kaminsky's symptoms in this case notes or indicates that he had paranoid schizophrenia. MacNaughton's notes say that Kaminsky indulged in solitary vices, and in his memoirs, Anderson wrote of his suspects' unmentionable vices, both of which may have matched the claim in the case notes that Aaron Kaminsky committed self-abuse. Swanson's notes match the known details of Aaron Kaminsky's life in that he reported that the suspect went to the workhouse and then to Colony Hatch, but the last detail about his early death does not match the Aaron Kaminsky who lived until 1919. Now, here's the thing. Aaron Kaminsky, he was a paranoid schizophrenic. Schizophrenic can be violent, can be all kinds of things. But when you look at the Jack the Ripper killings, this wasn't a man who was enraged. This wasn't a man who was losing control. This is a man who was in control, who knew exactly what he was doing. Looking at the cuts and how everything was, it's not a man who lost control and was satisfying some need to kill. This was meticulous. This was planned.
And then of course, back then even more so, folks would have been far quicker to villainize mental illness, right?
Exactly.
Like, oh,
Thank
paranoid
you.
schizophrenic. Of course he's a murderer.
Yeah.
It must be him, right? In Kaminsky's defense, here's the other thing. He was described as harmless in the asylum. He had originally been taken into custody for threatening either his sister or the sister of a witness to his admittance with a knife. So this is kind of where they were all like, it must be him, because here he is. He's threatening a woman with a knife, and he's got schizophrenia.
Case closed.
Yep, case closed. Must be him. See, that's the problem. Amateurs. They were in the right house. They just have the wrong person. Kaminsky preferred to speak his native language, Yiddish, which indicates that his English may have been poor, and that he wouldn't have been able to persuade English-speaking victims into dark alleyways.
And he could probably spell Jew correctly.
Mm-hmm. He didn't shower, and reports say that he was weak in stature. In fact, he only weighed 96 pounds around the time of his death in 1919. Now, are you ready for the big reveal?
No.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
First and foremost, let me share with y'all a picture. That is what is only known that I could find of Aaron Kaminsky with his sister and his brother.
Which will be on our socials.
His sister is fine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I can't take my eyes off that top hat.
I bet you can. Yeah. By the way, that's not Aaron Kaminsky. That's his brother. Here's the thing, kids. We talked about the fact that Aaron Kaminsky was not that strong, not that big, and you can tell because he's the one that's standing to the left.
Well,
That's
okay.
Aaron.
Well, let's provide some context until our listeners can get to where they can pull us up on our socials, right? So
Right.
the portrait is of this trio. You got Fancy Pants Dude, my name for him, sitting, front and center in a chair, wearing his top hat like Fancy Pants people do. And
Mm-hmm.
then behind one shoulder is another guy, gentlemanly looking gentleman, standing behind him, notably without a top hat. And over his over his other shoulder is a lovely little lady, also notably not wearing a top hat.
Yeah, that's it. Way to go. He nailed it. So here we go, kids. All along, people were trying to say that Jack the Ripper must be like a doctor or a surgeon, or he's a butcher, or, even a barber. Another reason they kind of narrowed in on Aaron Kaminsky, because he was, as it was actually stated, as a hairdresser or a barber. That's what he was. That somehow they must have some anatomical knowledge to be able to make such cuts like these, to be able to do stuff like this. But they missed one very important profession that also could give you knowledge like this. Do you remember how I talked about the articles of clothing, high-end ladies' clothing that they shouldn't have had? They shouldn't have been in their possession. An ornate silk scarf, a beautiful black leather bonnet, these fabrics, these materials. And something else too. Why did Catherine Eddowes say that she knew who the killer was, as if she had seen him? Where would she have seen him, She didn't go to the barber shop. I don't think she'd been to the doc. No. Where's some place that you can find all that stuff?
Taylor?
Taylor. A tailor who knows how to make precise cuts along the abdomen, the neckline, all the places that the victims were cut up. Do you know what Aaron Kaminsky's brother did for a living?
He was a dentist.
God damn it. No. He was a tailor, and not just any tailor. He was a ladies' tailor. He would have had access to all of those things. All of them. Not to mention the fact that, remember how they kept zeroing in on the last name, Kaminsky. Kaminsky. They never named his forename. It was just always about Kaminsky. Like something about the last name that they zeroed in on. Like why? Why would they do that? As if something stood out to them, or that they wanted to make a point about that last name. His brother was Isaac Kaminsky, who changed his name to Isaac Abrams.
He changed his name?
His last name.
Oh,
And
did he move? Oh, sorry.
He did. He did move. He moved along with Aaron Kaminsky around 1891. But more importantly than that, he wasn't just a tailor either. He was also a member of the Order of Masons.
Oh, no.
And funny enough, with Masonic oaths, now, before I say this, I want to make it very clear. I have the utmost respect for Masonries. I am not, don't take this the wrong way, but in Masonic oaths in the 1880s, particularly in London, there were symbolic penalties described as violent punishments for revealing Masonic secret. Those punishments: cutting one's throat and disemboweling the body.
Dang, Masons don't play.
It's all symbolic. No masonry would ever actually order that. It was always symbolic, but interesting to note.
But if you have a real hate for women.
Exactly.
So that's why you're saying earlier it's a topic I'm interested in, because I haven't brought it up on the show, but I've long been fascinated with the Freemasons. I just haven't done an episode on it because it's like it feels like everyone is kind of like beating that horse to death. I don't want to just jump on the bandwagon, but I've been fascinated with it.
So, not only that, but the killer would have needed to be strong, possibly wealthy, and perhaps even have some connections to Eddowes, perhaps the other women as well. This makes Isaac fit the bill, not to mention the fact that the DNA testing. Because the thing is, it was all about Kaminsky, but it didn't have to necessarily be Aaron Kaminsky. So, my kids, if you've been paying attention, the murderer was not Aaron Kaminsky. It was, in fact, his brother, Isaac. And also, interesting note, he chose the last name of Abrams or Abraham. Tell me, what's Abraham famous for doing in the Bible?
Splitting an animal in half as part of the
No,
sacrifice. I mean, he does.
he does, but that's not what he's famous for. Most non-biblical scholars are not going to know that, James. You and I know that, but they don't. For willing to sacrifice his son to God.
Oh,
He was
also
all
that.
about that he was all about sacrifices. What an interesting name. Yes, kids, that's right. I have uncovered the truth. It is not Aaron Kaminsky, but it was in fact Isaac Kaminsky, also known as Isaac Abrams or Abrahams. So yes, there you have it.
How did you figure this out?
Elementary, my dear James. Elementary.
Christopher Tripp solved it again.
I actually thought you were going to be all like, Christopher Tripp, he solved it again! Like Sherlock Holmes.
Those last several lines were not at all scripted. Trust us.
No, not at all, Scotland Yard. I've solved the case. You've got the wrong man. Don't do anything because he's dead.
Save the top hat.
Preserve the top hat. Now, granted, this is all speculation, because the fact is we can't know for certain that any of this is true. We can't even know that Aaron Kaminsky is, in fact, the killer. And even if he was, it only actually keeps him at the scene of the crime for Catherine Eddowes. But I find it kind of interesting that he targeted Catherine Eddowes. Now, people would say, well, he was enraged because he didn't get to finish with Elizabeth Stride. But what if it was more than that? What if he targeted her? He was angry with her. Perhaps she stole the scarf. See, I wonder if that she actually stole the scarf and he was enraged because of what she did. Not to mention the fact that she claimed that she knew him. That's the other
Because
thing.
she was him.
She was him.
I was thinking since two of the other girls had fancy articles as well, I was wondering if maybe he was luring them with those as like
I think
gifts.
he
come with
was.
him.
Maybe he could kind of just sticking his hand out from the alley, dangling a silk scarf.
Well, you know, you got to be smoother than that, but
The
I
thing
wouldn't
is
be very
too.
good at this.
Yeah. The thing is too is that many eyewitnesses did see some of the victims with somebody else, with a figure, before their deaths. Chapman was observed talking with a man at 5:30 in the morning. The two had stood just beyond the backyard of 29 Hanbury Street. Elizabeth Long witnessed this, and she described this man as being over 40 years old. Aaron Kaminsky was in his early 20s.
Yeah, he was young.
Did you know who was in his 40s? Or close to it?
Big brother.
Isaac. Oh, I just got that. Isaac Abrams. Abraham almost sacrificed Isaac.
His son Isaac, yeah.
He and Chapman described the man with dark hair and of a foreign, shabby, genteel appearance. He was wearing a brown, low-crowned felt hat and possibly a dark coat. According to Long, the man had asked Chapman the question, "Will you?" To which Chapman replied, "Yes." See, in the end, Aaron Kaminsky doesn't make sense, except for the fact that he was a schizophrenic and he's an easy target. Because like James said, let's target mental illness. It must be him. And they zeroed in on the DNA, so who else could it be? Because you never want to suspect that it's actually the tailor, but it was. Anyway, that's the episode, folks. Thanks for joining us.
That was good, Chris. You got me.
There's some people out there wearing some Jack the Ripper original apparel.
What?
If he was a tailor.
Dude, I mean, well, maybe.
Yeah.
Probably not wearing it. Might be in like great grandma's old trunk or something.
I don't mean today. I mean at the time. His customers.
Oh, yeah. And they never would have known anything. They would just be like, oh, yeah, sweet Isaac, he does such a good job on my dresses. No one would ever think that he got swimming like fishes. But yeah, I mean, and the thing is, I kept going down the rabbit hole. I just had to stop because I started to speculating. Because at this point, it's all speculation. I mean,
Sure.
we can't know. We can't know because the DNA evidence, I'm with the experts who say this isn't enough. Mitochondrial DNA, just from what little I've learned, using mitochondrial DNA, you can actually connect it to tons of people. And the other thing that kind of strikes me is how did he know to test Kaminsky's line? Like, I didn't find any instances where he was like, well, let's go find Chapman's line first, and then let's go find Elizabeth Stride. No, it was like almost like he was like, no, I bet it's Aaron Kaminsky. Like he was just determined that it's going to be Aaron Kaminsky, so he's going to go and prove it. Which,
Yeah, I mean, the only way you could be certain would be to take the DNA and make a clone, and then ask the clone, "Hey, how murderous do you feel?"
that's you're already in trouble for science as it is. That's not how cloning works either. God, man. This is why it's such a disappointment to me and your mother.
Oh my gosh.
You know,
Good
earlier
job,
I
Chris.
really wanted to jump in earlier when you were saying, about the name change, because I really wanted it to be, and that's when he changed his last name to
The
the
Ripper.
Ripper.
The Ripper.
Yeah, that's basically how I knew it was Isaac, because he's all like, hello, I'm Isaac the Ripper. There's something else, too, that kind of struck out at me as well, is the famous letter. The whole reason we call him Jack the Ripper is because he named himself Jack the Ripper. He supposedly sent a letter to Scotland Yard with a piece of human kidney, and he signed it from hell, Jack the Ripper, Jack the Ripper. So he named himself too, which once again, that's not the sign of somebody who's schizophrenic, you know?
Yeah, that's a sign of that's the sign of a guy who knows how to stay on brand.
Pretty much.
Trying to build a legacy.
He sure as shit did. So the fact is that Aaron Kaminsky doesn't fit any of the parameters other than he's an easy target. And I'm willing to bet that if the DNA is truly of the Kaminsky line, then they got it right in the family. They just got the wrong brother. It was Isaac. Isaac Abrams was Jack the Ripper. Maybe. I don't know.
You've convinced me. Good job, Christopher.
Thank you.
I didn't know all these clothing details. That was so smart.
Well, that was kind of the thing. That's kind of where it zeroed on because they were all like, this beautiful lace scarf. And immediately I was thinking, a woman who's broke as she is isn't going to have a scarf like that. Not to mention the fact that some speculated that the killer left the scarf at the scene or the killer gave her the scarf. Kind of like James suggested, like he may have lured them. The other thing is, getting from one point to the other between Eddowes and Stride, that's kind of hard to do. Unless, of course, you're in a carriage. Something a wealthy tailor could afford, not an out-of-work barber.
So I do find which is why my mind went there, the Abraham reference, because like Abraham did mutilate an animal and literally split it in half, like in two, because that was how you did like really hardcore oaths back in the day.
And he probably knew that as well, being of the Jewish faith.
Yeah. Because basically it was a symbolism, like it was how you did a covenant, and it was symbolically saying that if I break this covenant, you get to do this to me.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But suffice to say, we probably will never truly know who Jack the Ripper was. It's one of those great mysteries. But if it was anybody, it was Isaac. Not Aaron.
Or it was her.
Or it was her.
The hot sister.
Jackie the Ripper.
Or maybe it was all three. Maybe it was like a family affair.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It would explain why he was holding a knife at her in anger. Maybe they were finally like, you're done. You're cut out of the fun. You don't get to play with us anymore, little brother. Now it's just going to be me and Big Bro. And he's all like, no, you can't cut me, eh? Oh, I'm Jack the Ripper. I could be Jack the Ripper. You're not, though.
Look at me ripping.
Look at me ripping. Or maybe he suspected that his brother was Jack the Ripper. And that's why he exploded on the sister. Because maybe she was protecting him. I don't know. Food for thought. But if you liked this episode, please like, share, comment. If you've got a story that you would like us to read on the show, give us an email. Shoot us an email. Don't give us an email. That's not something you give. And it's the email address is info@littlepodcastofhorrors.com. And you can also check
Nailed
out our
it.
website. Nailed it! And you can also check out our website at www.littlepodcastapours.com. Until then.
You can also become patrons and join our Patreon and give us money, and we'll love you forever.
Yep, because our love can be bought.
I'm good at sales.
That's right. Until then, until the next case we have to crack, this is Detective Christopher Tripp saying good night.
You sound like a little
I love
fish.
how you're gentlemanly puffing on your pipe while the kid's just wailing wildly behind you on VR.